Naira stood at the observation deck of the Selenian warship, her silver eyes reflecting the distant stars. Her crystalline armor caught the light of a nearby sun, creating rainbow patterns on the metallic walls. At 8 feet tall with iridescent scaled skin, she cut an imposing figure even among her own people. As first warrior of the Selenian elite guard, she had earned every right to that pride. The human vessel approaching their ship looked absurdly fragile to her enhanced vision. Its hull was thick by human standards, but to a Selenian, it might as well have been made of paper. These humans, with their soft skin and brittle bones, had somehow spread across the galaxy like a persistent vine, establishing colonies and trade routes everywhere they went. First warrior, her commander's voice carried across the deck. The human delegation is ready to dock. They seek our help with the pirate problem in the Omega sector. Naira's scaled lips curled into a slight sneer. Let them dock, Commander. Though I fail to see why the mighty human empire needs our help with simple pirates. The human ship's docking procedure was surprisingly elegant, she had to admit. Their pilot demonstrated considerable skill, compensating for the difference in artificial gravity between the vessels. A group of 5 humans emerged from the airlock, led by a tall male with dark skin and quick, observant eyes. Welcome aboard the Crystalline Dawn, Naira's commander greeted them. I am Commander Vex, and this is First Warrior Naira. The human leader stepped forward with a respectful nod. Engineer Ethan Hayes, of the Earth Defense Force. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Naira studied him with barely concealed disdain. He moved with the deliberate grace of a trained fighter, yet his frame seemed so delicate. Humans were among the physically weakest spacefaring species, surviving purely through their technology and what they called ingenuity. The briefing that followed was straightforward enough. Pirates had been targeting both human and Selenian ships in the Omega sector, somehow evading both species' patrol vessels. The humans proposed a joint operation to trap and eliminate the threat. We believe they're using some form of advanced cloaking technology, Ethan explained, bringing up a holographic display. But we've detected an unusual energy signature that might. The ship's alarm cut him off. Red emergency lights bathed the deck in crimson as the vessel shuddered violently. Multiple hostile signatures. The tactical officer shouted. They appeared out of nowhere. Another impact rocked the ship. Naira's enhanced balance kept her steady while the human stumbled. Through the observation window, she saw 3 massive vessels shimmer into existence, their design unlike anything she'd encountered before. It's a trap, Ethan shouted, already moving toward the tactical display. Those are the pirates we've been tracking, but they're not using any cloaking tech I've seen before. The Crystalline Dawn's shields flickered under another barrage. Naira watched in disbelief as the supposedly impenetrable Selenian defense grid began to fail. Whatever weapons the pirates were using, they were specifically designed to counter Selenian technology. First Warrior, her commander ordered, get our guests to the escape pods. We need to protect the diplomatic mission. Naira wanted to argue, to stay and fight, but duty came first. This way, she growled at the humans, leading them toward the emergency evacuation deck. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Wait, Ethan called out, pointing to a maintenance access panel. There's a better way. Those aren't standard escape pods they're targeting. They're waiting for us to use them. Naira hesitated. The human was suggesting they ignore standard emergency protocols, yet something in his tone made her listen. The maintenance crawlways connect to the auxiliary craft bay, he continued quickly. They won't expect us to go there, and those ships are better shielded. A nearby explosion made the decision for her. Lead on, human, she conceded. But if you're wrong. Ethan didn't wait for the threat. He pried open the panel and began helping his team through. Naira had to crouch to follow, her powerful frame barely fitting in the human-sized passage. She bit back a comment about primitive design standards. Now wasn't the time. They had almost reached the auxiliary bay when another hit caused a section of the crawlway to collapse behind them. Nyara instinctively grabbed Ethan, pulling him clear as debris crashed down. For a moment, they were pressed together, and she was surprised to feel the density of muscle beneath his seemingly fragile exterior. "Thanks," he said simply, already moving again. The auxiliary bay was just ahead, and through its windows they could see the battle raging outside. The crystalline dawn was fighting back hard, but it was clearly outmatched. "There," Ethan pointed to a small transport vessel. "That one's got the best combination of shields and speed." Nyara did a quick assessment and realized he was right. It wasn't the most powerful ship in the bay, but it was indeed the best choice for their situation. Perhaps there was something to human tactical analysis after all. As they rushed to board the transport, a new alarm blared through the bay. The pirates had breached the main hull. Soon, warders would swarm the ship. "I'll pilot," Ethan said, sliding into the control seat. "Unless you're familiar with this model." Nyara wasn't, though she never admitted. She took the tactical station instead, watching as Ethan's hands flew over the controls with practiced ease. The transport hummed to life, just as the first boarders burst into the bay. What happened next would change Nyara's view of humans forever, though she didn't know it yet. As pirates opened fire on their position, Ethan executed a maneuver that should have been impossible in a transport this size. He rolled the ship on its axis, using the rotation to absorb incoming fire with the strongest part of their shields, while simultaneously calculating a hyperspace jump from inside the bay, something that violated at least 3 laws of safe space travel. "Hold on," was all he said, before punching the controls. The last thing Nyara saw before they jumped was her beloved crystalline dawn, proud and defiant to the end, buying them time to escape. They had survived, but as the hyperspace corridor enveloped them, Nyara realized this was just the beginning. The pirates had known too much, had been too well prepared. Someone had set this up, and now she was trapped on a small transport with a group of humans, running from an enemy that had just defeated one of the most powerful ships in the Selenian fleet. And worst of all, she owed her life to a human's quick thinking. As she glanced at Ethan's focused expression while he managed their escape, she had to admit that perhaps she had more to learn about humans and their different kinds of strength. "There," Ethan pointed to a small transport vessel. "That one's got the best combination of shields and speed." Nyara did a quick assessment and realized he was right. It wasn't the most powerful ship in the bay, but it was indeed the best choice for their situation. Perhaps there was something to human tactical analysis after all. As they rushed to board the transport, a new alarm blared through the bay. The pirates had breached the main hull. Soon, boarders would swarm the ship. "I'll pilot," Ethan said, sliding into the control seat. "Unless you're familiar with this model." Nyara wasn't, though she'd never admitted. She took the tactical station instead, watching as Ethan's hands flew over the controls with practiced ease. The transport hummed to life, just as the first boarders burst into the bay. What happened next would change Nyara's view of humans forever, though she didn't know it yet. As pirates opened fire on their position, Ethan executed a maneuver that should have been impossible in a transport this size. He rolled the ship on its axis, using the rotation to absorb incoming fire with the strongest part of their shields, while simultaneously calculating a hyperspace jump from inside the bay, something that violated at least 3 laws of safe space travel. "Hold on," was all he said, before punching the controls. The last thing Nyara saw before they jumped was her beloved crystalline dawn, proud and defiant to the end, buying them time to escape. They had survived, but as the hyperspace corridor enveloped them, Nyara realized this was just the beginning. The pirates had known too much, had been too well prepared. Someone had set this up, and now she was trapped on a small transport with a group of humans, running from an enemy that had just defeated one of the most powerful ships in the Selenian fleet. And worst of all, she owed her life to a human's quick thinking. As she glanced at Ethan's focused expression while he managed their escape, she had to admit that perhaps she had more to learn about humans and their different kinds of strength. can break you in half with one arm. Naira finished. Focus on staying alive. I'll handle the direct combat. The fight began without warning. The Chronaxian charged while the Void Stalker flickered between shadows, and the combat android began calculating firing solutions. Naira met the Chronaxian's charge head-on, her superior strength allowing her to match its four-armed assault. Ethan rolled away from the android's first barrage, using debris as cover. Naira, the android's targeting system is predictive. Keep moving in irregular patterns. She wanted to snap back that she didn't need tactical advice from a human, but his warning saved her from a plasma burst that would have caught her otherwise. The Chronaxian pressed its attack, forcing her toward the Void Stalker's position. The shadow creature struck, its ethereal form passing through debris to attack from unexpected angles. Naira's natural armor deflected some hits, but each contact felt like ice burning through her scales. She needed space to maneuver, but the android's continuous fire kept her options limited. Then she saw what Ethan was doing. While everyone focused on her, the obvious threat, he had been gathering specific pieces of debris, arranging them in what seemed like random patterns. He caught her eye and gave a subtle signal. The human dies first. The Chronaxian bellowed, noticing Ethan's apparent vulnerability. It charged toward him, all four arms raising their weapons. Ethan stood his ground, staff held ready. At the last second, he triggered something in his hand. The debris around him erupted with electrical energy, pieces of conductive material he'd arranged into a makeshift circuit. The discharge caught the Chronaxian mid-stride, its metal weapons acting as conductors. The electricity arced from the Chronaxian to the combat android, overloading its systems. Both opponents convulsed and fell, leaving only the Void Stalker. The shadow creature hissed in fury, its form becoming more solid as it prepared for a killing strike. Now, Ethan shouted, throwing his staff to Naira. She caught it while tossing her own weapon to him in the same motion. The Void Stalker, committed to its attack, couldn't shift back to ethereal form fast enough. Naira's enhanced strength drove the staff through its suddenly solid mass, while Ethan used her weapon to deflect its dying counterattack. The arena fell silent. 3 of the most dangerous gladiators lay defeated, not by overwhelming force, but by coordination and tactical thinking. Naira stood breathing heavily, looking at her human partner with new eyes. In the observation box, Captain Drachner's smile had vanished. Impressive. His voice held an edge of danger, perhaps too impressive. Take them back to their cell, and increase security. As guards surrounded them, Ethan moved closer to Naira. They'll separate us now, he whispered. They know we're more dangerous together. Let them try. Naira responded, surprising herself with how much she meant it. You've proven yourself a worthy warrior, Ethan Hayes. Different, but worthy. High praise. He managed a grim smile. But we need to act soon. I've been studying their systems during our fights. There's a weakness in their security protocols, but we'll only get one chance to exploit it. Naira nodded imperceptibly as guards led them away. She had come to realize that human strength wasn't about physical power. It was about adaptation, about finding ways to overcome seemingly impossible odds. Their captors had meant to break them by forcing them to fight together. Instead, they had created something unexpected, a partnership that transcended their species' differences. In their cell, Naira watched Ethan immediately begin working on what looked like random scratches on the wall, calculations and observations he'd been gathering. She found herself hoping he would share his escape plan soon. Not because she doubted her own ability to break free, but because she was genuinely curious to see what solution his unique human perspective would devise. The pirates had wanted to break them. Instead, they had forged something stronger than either of them alone. Naira smiled to herself, wondering what her fellow Selenians would think of her now, actually looking forward to seeing what crazy plan her human ally would suggest next. The detention block hummed with electrical currents, casting harsh shadows across Naira's iridescent scales. 3 weeks of captivity had done little to dim her warrior's spirit, but it had taught her patience. She watched Ethan working at the cell's control panel, his fingers moving with practiced precision, despite the burns and bruises from their last arena fight. "The guard rotation changes in 4 minutes," she whispered, keeping watch through the energy barrier. "Are you certain this will work?" "Trust the math," Ethan replied, not looking up from his work. He had spent their captivity studying the pirates' systems, memorizing patterns, and gathering intel during their forced arena appearances. Every complex system has vulnerabilities. It's just a matter of finding them. The pirates had grown cocky after capturing them, believing their advanced technology made them invincible. They didn't realize that every time they paraded their prisoners to the arena, Ethan was analyzing their weapons, studying their ship's layout, and piecing together their weaknesses. "There," he muttered, connecting 2 final wires. The energy barrier flickered once, then disappeared. No alarm sounded. Nyara had to admit, the humans' technical skills were impressive. They moved silently through the corridors, using the maintenance routes Ethan had mapped during their gladiatorial performances. The pirates' overconfidence meant they rarely checked these service tunnels, considering them too small for a Selenian to navigate. "The armory should be through here," Ethan whispered, pointing to a sealed door. "If my calculations are correct, they're storing our equipment there, including your crystalline armor." Nyara felt a surge of hope. Her armor was more than equipment. It was a symbol of her status as First Warrior, encoded with generations of Selenian combat data. The pirates had tried and failed to access its secrets, not realizing it would respond only to Selenian DNA. The door's lock yielded to Ethan's hacked access codes. Inside, they found not only their equipment but a treasure trove of stolen weapons and technology. Nyara quickly located her armor, while Ethan gathered specific pieces of equipment he'd need for the next phase of their plan. "We have 2 minutes before the next security sweep," he said, checking a makeshift chronometer he'd assembled from spare parts. "Ready?" Nyara finished securing her armor, feeling its familiar power surge through her. "Ready. Though I still think we should fight our way to the bridge." "They'd expect that," Ethan replied, hefting a modified plasma cutter. "A direct confrontation plays to their strengths. We need to be smarter." Their path led them deeper into the ship's infrastructure. Ethan had discovered that the pirates' advanced technology relied on a unique power distribution system, overloaded in the right way, and their weapons, shields, and even their artificial gravity would fail. They reached a major power junction, and Ethan began working quickly, attaching devices he'd modify from stolen tech. Nyara stood guard, her enhanced senses alert for any approach. She found herself admiring how the human's mind worked, always finding unexpected solutions to seemingly impossible problems. "Company," she warned, hearing footsteps approaching. At least 4 guards. Ethan didn't look up from his work. "How long?" 30 seconds, maybe less. "Need 45 to finish this. Can you buy me time?" Nyara's scaled lips curved into a predatory smile. "With pleasure." The guards never knew what hit them. Nyara used the narrow corridor to her advantage, her crystalline armor deflecting their energy weapons while she engaged in close combat. Even without her full strength, she was more than a match for the pirates in hand-to-hand fighting. When Ethan finished his work, he found Nyara standing over 4 unconscious guards, barely breathing hard. "Remind me never to get on your bad side," he said with a grin. "Too late for that, human," she replied. But there was no malice in her tone. "Now what?" "Now we head to the auxiliary shuttle bay. In about 2 minutes, this ship is going to experience a cascade of system failures. Every backup system they activate will only make things worse." They moved quickly through the ship, hearing chaos erupt behind them as systems began to fail. Emergency lights flashed, artificial gravity fluctuated, and confusion spread among the crew. Ethan's sabotage was working perfectly. The shuttle bay was lightly guarded. Most of the security forces had been drawn to the spreading chaos. They encountered only token resistance, easily overcome by their combined skills. Nyara found herself automatically coordinating with Ethan, their fighting styles complementing each other in ways she wouldn't have thought possible weeks ago. "There's our ride," Ethan said, pointing to a sleek shuttle. "One of their latest acquisitions. Has enough range to get us to the nearest patrol route." As they prepared for launch, a familiar voice echoed through the bay. "Impressive escape attempt." Captain Drachner's voice was smooth as oil. "But did you really think I wouldn't have a contingency plan?" Massive blast doors began closing around the bay. Ethan rushed to the shuttle's controls while Nyara provided covering fire against pirates pouring in through side entrances. "Whatever you're planning," she called to Ethan, "do it quickly." "Remember how you said my ideas were usually crazy?" he asked, hands flying over the controls. "You're really going to hate this one." Before she could respond, Ethan fired the shuttle's weapons, not at their attackers, but at the bay's atmospheric containment field. The resulting explosion created a massive decompression event, sucking pirates and debris toward the breach. Nyara's armor kept her anchored while Ethan's quick piloting shot them through the gap moments before emergency barriers slammed into place. They burst into open space as the pirate vessel behind them descended into chaos, its systems continuing to fail in spectacular fashion. Nyara watched the ship's lights flicker and die, a testament to human ingenuity. "That," she said, settling into the co-pilot's seat, "was indeed crazy, but effective," Ethan replied, plotting their course. "And now we know who supplied them with their advanced technology. Did you recognize the power signature?" Nyara nodded grimly. "Rogue Selenian tech. Someone high in our government is working with the pirates." "Exactly. Our escape is just the beginning. The real fight is still ahead of us." As they accelerated away from the disabled pirate ship, Nyara found herself looking forward to that fight. Not just because it would restore her honor, but because she would face it alongside this human who had proven that strength came in many forms. The shuttle's warning lights flashed as they entered the atmosphere of Nexus Vivi, a supposedly abandoned mining world. Nyara watched Ethan navigate through a brutal storm, his hands steady on the controls despite the violent turbulence. The human had insisted they come here, claiming one of his old military contacts could help them expose the conspiracy within the Selenian government. "Vena's not exactly comfortable with visitors," Ethan explained, threading their stolen ship between towering rock formations. "But she's the best information broker in 3 sectors, and she owes me a favor." Lightning crackled around them, interfering with their instruments. Nyara's enhanced vision could barely penetrate the dark clouds swirling outside. "You trust this contact?" "Trust is a strong word," Ethan replied, executing a precise turn through a narrow canyon. "Let's say I trust her to act in her own best interests, and right now, that aligns with helping us." They landed near a collection of abandoned mining structures, their metallic surfaces corroded by the planet's caustic atmosphere. Ethan donned an environmental suit while Nyara relied on her natural armor, enhanced by what remained of her crystalline suit's protective fields. The storm grew worse as they approached the largest building. Wind howled through empty corridors, carrying stinging particles that would have shredded unprotected human flesh. Ethan moved with practiced caution, checking corners and staying away from windows. "Something's wrong," he said suddenly, stopping at an intersection. "The security measures are offline." Before Nyara could respond, the floor beneath them shuddered. Hidden panels slid open, revealing automated defense turrets. "Down," Ethan shouted, tackling Nyara, as energy beams crisscrossed the space where they'd been standing. They rolled behind a support column, plasma fire scorching the metal around them. "Your contact security seems quite active to me," Nyara growled. "This isn't Vena's system," Ethan replied, pulling a small device from his suit. "The response time is all wrong. Someone else is here." A new voice echoed through the corridor, amplified by hidden speakers. Quite observant, Engineer Hayes. Captain Drachner's smooth tones filled the space. "I must thank you for leading us to this fascinating facility. Vena's database will fetch an excellent price. Naira tensed, ready to charge the nearest turret, but Ethan held her back. "Wait," he whispered. "Listen." Through the sounds of weapons fire and howling wind, Naira detected something else, a faint, rhythmic humming. Ethan was already working on his device, fingers flying over its surface. "The pirates aren't just here for data," he explained quietly. "This facility hosts a quantum processing node. They're trying to slice into secure networks across the sector." He showed Naira his device's screen, displaying complex energy patterns. "But they don't understand the system they're tampering with." More turrets emerged from the walls. They were trapped, with no clear path forward or back. Naira prepared herself for a desperate charge, but Ethan remained focused on his device. "The quantum processor is destabilizing," he continued. "If they don't stop now, they'll trigger a cascade failure. The entire facility could collapse into a temporary singularity. Then we should retreat," Naira urged, but Ethan shook his head. "If that happens, every connected network in the sector goes down. Planetary defense systems, navigation beacons, life support on space stations. Millions could die." His eyes met hers. "I can stabilize it, but I need to reach the main control room." Naira studied him for a moment. The human was suggesting they advance rather than retreat, knowing it might be a trap, because other lives were at stake. She had once mistaken such concern for weakness. Now she recognized it as its own kind of strength. "Tell me what you need," she said. What followed was the most precisely coordinated attack of Naira's career. Using Ethan's understanding of the facility's systems and her combat prowess, they advanced through the defensive grid. Ethan's device disrupted turret targeting systems moments before Naira destroyed them. They'd moved like one unit, covering each other's vulnerabilities, maximizing their strengths. They reached the control room to find Vena, a slim figure with metallic skin, lying unconscious near a bank of computers. Pirates had her facility under control, but they'd underestimated the complexity of the quantum systems they were trying to manipulate. "Warning," an automated voice announced. "Quantum cascade imminent. Containment failing." The pirates turned to fire on the intruders, but Naira was already moving. She engaged them in close combat, while Ethan rushed to the main console. Energy weapons flashed through the air as Naira's natural armor deflected shots that would have vaporized a human. "Whatever you're going to do," she called to Ethan, disarming two pirates simultaneously. "Do it quickly." "Need 2 more minutes," he replied, hands flying over multiple control surfaces. "And please don't let them shoot the quantum core. That would be unfortunate." Naira positioned herself between the pirates and the core, becoming an immovable barrier. She watched in amazement as Ethan worked, his mind processing complex quantum calculations while under fire. This was a different kind of battle, fought with mathematics and code rather than physical strength, but it was no less impressive. The facility's lights flickered. Warnings blared about imminent system collapse. At the last possible moment, Ethan executed his final command sequence. The quantum core's angry red glow subsided, returning to a stable blue. "System stabilized," the automated voice announced. "Quantum cascade averted." Naira finished subduing the last pirate just as Vena regained consciousness. The information broker took in the scene. Her facility secured, the pirates defeated, and her systems restored. "Ethan Hayes," she said, her metallic features shifting into a smile. "Still cleaning up other people's messes, I see." "Good to see you too, Vena," Ethan replied, already checking the quantum core for damage. "Though I think we should discuss your security protocols." As they helped Vena secure the facility and her precious data, Naira found herself reflecting on the day's events. She had witnessed yet another kind of human strength, not just physical endurance or tactical thinking, but a deep sense of responsibility to others. It was a strength that came from caring, from refusing to walk away when it would have been easier to run. "The pirates knew we were coming," she said later, as they prepared to leave. We have a traitor in our midst. Ethan nodded grimly. The conspiracy goes deeper than we thought. But thanks to Venna's data, we now know where to find proof. He paused, studying Mayra's expression. It's not too late to back out. This isn't your fight. Mayra straightened to her full height, looking down at her human companion with newfound respect. You're wrong, Ethan Hayes. This became my fight the moment I understood what real strength looks like. The Selenian High Council chamber gleamed with crystalline light, its ancient walls witnessing perhaps the most extraordinary session in its history. Mayra stood before the assembled counselors, her armor bearing the scars of recent battle, while Ethan worked at a portable terminal nearby, preparing to present their evidence. This is unprecedented, First Speaker Lysandra declared, her scaled features rigid with disapproval. To allow a human to address the High Council is necessary, Mayra interrupted, ignoring the gasps from junior counselors. Because what we've uncovered threatens both our peoples. The evidence from Venna's quantum core had led them to a devastating discovery. Several high-ranking Selenian officials had been working with the pirates, providing advanced technology in exchange for disrupting human expansion in the sector. But the conspiracy went deeper than simple territorial disputes. The attack on my ship wasn't random, Ethan explained, projecting data onto the chamber's main display. They needed to test their hybrid weapons technology, Selenian crystal tech enhanced with human engineering principles. They were preparing for something bigger. The display showed tactical projections, troop movements, and weapons tests. The pirates weren't just raiders, they were an army in waiting. An army equipped with technology that could defeat both human and Selenian defenses. Preposterous, declared Council Member Thrace, rising from his seat. These accusations, a massive explosion rocked the chamber. Emergency sirens wailed as the Council's defensive shields activated. Through the crystalline walls, they could see multiple ships descending through the atmosphere, their hybrid design a perfect fusion of human and Selenian technology. Right on schedule, Ethan muttered, already moving to a defense terminal. They couldn't let us present this evidence. Mayra's combat instincts kicked in as she assessed the situation. The Council chamber's defenses were formidable, but they weren't designed to withstand weapons that could penetrate Selenian shields. They had minutes at most. Counselors, she projected her voice over the chaos. We need to evacuate. Now. Another explosion hit closer, cracking one of the chamber's walls. Through the breach, they could see Capital City under attack. The pirates had launched a full invasion, using their stolen technology to bypass planetary defenses. The emergency bunker, First Speaker Lysandra ordered, finally accepting the gravity of the situation. It's our only chance. They moved quickly through crystalline corridors, Mayra taking point while Ethan covered their rear. The human had modified his weapons with Selenian crystals, making them effective against the hybrid technology they faced. Multiple contacts, Mayra warned as they approached the bunker entrance. They knew where we'd go. Pirates in advanced combat suits emerged from side passages, their weapons combining the raw power of Selenian crystals with the precision of human targeting systems. The first volley nearly overwhelmed Mayra's armor. Then Ethan was there, firing from behind a column. His modified weapons disrupted the pirates' shield harmonics, creating openings for Mayra to exploit. They fought as one unit, covering each other's blind spots, anticipating each other's moves. The Council is safely inside, Ethan reported after the last pirate fell. But we've got a bigger problem. Their main ship is positioning for an orbital bombardment. Through her armor's enhanced sensors, Mayra could see it, a massive vessel combining the best of both their species' technology. If it opened fire, the capital would be devastated. We need a ship, she said. Better, Ethan replied, pulling up schematics on his terminal. I've got a plan, but you're not going to like it. Mayra had learned to dread those words, but she'd also learned to trust them. Tell me. The plan was indeed crazy. Using the Council chamber's quantum communication array, Ethan believed he could hack into the pirates' hybrid systems. But to do it, they needed to get back to the chamber, which was now at the center of the invasion force. They fought their way back through corridors filled with combat. Nyara's strength and skill matched perfectly with Ethan's tactical genius. Pirates fell before their combined might, but more kept coming. "They're desperate," Ethan observed as they reached the chamber. "They know what we're trying to do." "Then let's not disappoint them," Nyara replied, taking up a defensive position while Ethan worked. The next few minutes were a blur of combat. Pirates breached the chamber from multiple points, forcing Nyara to constantly adapt her defense. She lost count of how many she fought, focused only on keeping them away from Ethan. "Almost there," he called out, fingers flying over the controls. "Their hybrid systems are fighting back, but got it." Above them, the massive pirate vessel suddenly lost power. Its weapons powered down, shields failed, and engines died. But they weren't done yet. "Nyara," Ethan's voice was urgent. "Remember how you said my ideas were crazy?" "Yes. The ship's quantum core is destabilizing. Same problem they had at Venice facility, but much bigger. We need to stabilize it from their bridge." Nyara looked at him for a long moment. "You want to board their powerless flagship, fight through their remaining forces, and prevent a quantum explosion that could destroy the city." "Pretty much." She smiled. Finally, a straightforward plan. What followed would become legend in both human and Selenian space. Using Ethan's modified weapons and Nyara's armor, they fought their way through the disabled vessel. Pirates tried to stop them, but nothing could stand before their combined might. They reached the bridge with moments to spare. While Nyara held off the desperate crew, Ethan worked to prevent catastrophe. The quantum core's containment was failing, its energy readings approaching critical levels. "I can't stop it completely," he announced grimly. "But I can direct the explosion. If we vent the core into space." "Do it," Nyara ordered, throwing a pirate across the bridge. "I trust you." Trust. It had been such a foreign concept when they first met. Now it was the foundation of everything they did. Ethan executed his commands. The quantum core ejected into space, detonating in a spectacular display that lit up the sky but harmed nothing below. As the light faded, they could see human ships entering the atmosphere. Commander Roth's response fleet, fashionably late but welcome nonetheless. In the aftermath, as combined human and Selenian forces secured the capital, Nyara found Ethan staring out at the sunset. "The Council wants to thank you personally," she said. "They're creating a new position, liaison between our peoples. They want you for the job." Ethan smiled. "What about you? Still think humans are weak?" Nyara moved to stand beside him, her impressive height no longer an attempt to intimidate but to protect. "I think strength comes in many forms. You taught me that." "We taught each other," he corrected, "and I think we've got a lot more to learn." As they watched the sun set on a changed world, Nyara reflected on how far they'd come. She had once laughed at human strength, not understanding that true power came in many forms. Physical might, tactical brilliance, technological skill, moral courage, all were different faces of the same crystal, each reflecting light in its own way. The conspiracy was exposed, the pirates defeated, but their greatest victory was something else entirely. They had proven that when different kinds of strength worked together, nothing was impossible.